first story is by Throwaway Quitter. Am I the butthole for refusing to take care of my children? I gave birth to my second child 2 days ago. It was a beautiful home birth, so I was never discharged from the hospital. With my first and this pregnancy, I made it clear to my husband I wanted to follow the 5-5-5 rule. He seemed to drag his feet, but because he wanted kids more than I did, he agreed. I still love my kids dearly, and I wouldn't not have them now. I just didn't want to go through pregnancy. 5-5-5 rule means first 5 days in bed. Nothing but skin to skin with my daughter, breastfeeding and resting. Next 5 days on bed. Sitting up, still breastfeeding, cuddling with baby, doing homework with my son, crossword puzzles, etc. Next 5 after that around bed. Still majority resting but doing light chores, folding laundry, diaper changing, just not standing for more than 30 minutes. All while still cuddling with baby, breastfeeding baby, doing homework with my son and coloring. This baby is very colicky and my husband is the one having to get out of bed, walk around with her and sit on the rocking chair, do diapers and take her and our son on walks to get some sunshine. Our son, who is 5, has started acting out at home due to the stress of the new baby and lack of sleep. We have offered him going to my parents next door and he seems interested. We have prepared a month's worth of freezer meals, so for dinner, all he has to do is throw the disposable tin in the oven and walk away for a few hours. We have more than enough disposable dishware. We have a dog he needs to feed and take out in walks with the kids. Today he came to me crying, saying it was all too much and he couldn't do this by himself. I reminded him that he agreed to it and I have to go back to work shortly after the 5-5-5 is up, so I need to be as rested and healed as possible, so I can better perform tasks at work, then come home and perform tasks as well. He begged me to help out with our son, who will not sit still, and help with the light cleaning, wiping countertops, gathering clutter into a pile, etc. I again said no. I am entitled to rest and I will help around the house in 8 days. Not the butthole, not in the very least. To me, even the realization that you are going back to work 2-3 weeks after you had a baby. Wow, you're a hero, a true hero without a cape. Maybe a cape. You deserve a cape, get a cape, yeah. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, because I really want to get to 100 subscribers as soon as possible. The next story is by OKLove1831. Am I the butthole for leaving my sister's bridal party after she told me my dad's girlfriend is the maid of honor? For context, when I was a teen, my parents ended up getting a divorce. My mom got full custody because my dad said he needed time off as he couldn't take care of us when everything was still raw. When he was around, he spent more of his time with my sister Maria rather than me as she needed him more. This was a sore spot for me growing up, especially when he made an effort for Maria but never for me. He has tried to reconcile, and while we aren't on the best of terms, I've grown to accept it. He ended up meeting Jane at a bar and they hit it off. While I personally don't mind him moving on, Jane was obsessed with the idea of reconciling our relationship. The few times I've met her, she would get into arguments with me claiming that my dad only wants his daughter back and to give him a chance. Last summer, we were having a dinner at Maria's flat where she and dad were discussing an upcoming family vacation. When Jane asked what I thought about the trip, I informed her I wasn't going. She immediately started questioning me about it. Suffice to say, it ended up in a screaming match as she claimed I was purposefully icing her and my dad out. I told her I was a grown adult and if she didn't like it, she had someone else following her like a puppy. My dad got involved and ended up choosing to leave. but not before she shouted that I was my mom's lapdog. Maria ended up kicking them both out afterwards too. I haven't spoken to either of my dad or Jane since that day. With Maria's upcoming wedding, I have expected to see them there, and I have made my peace to just stay as far as possible. But a few days ago, she told me that she had a maid of honor in mind. She claimed Jane has been nothing but sweet to her and that she felt like she was her close friend. As she was talking, she said that Jane was really sorry and was trying to reach out to apologize, but I cut her off. I told her if she wanted her as her maid of honor, it was her wedding and choice, but I personally didn't want to be in a position where I had to keep interacting with her over every little detail. I would still attend the wedding, but I wouldn't be a bridesmaid. This made her tear up. She begged me to reconsider, as she really wanted me to be part of her big day, and I told her I will, but just as an attendee. In the end, she said, it's okay, but asked me to reconsider. News got to my dad and Jane, and now my dad has sent several messages telling me that I'm acting childish and that I'm ruining Maria's day. Am I the butthole for leaving? I feel like this way we can avoid any potential conflict, but I also want to be the part of her day. Well, basically, I think it was up to your sister who made her choice, and it only proves the point that Jane is closer to her than you are, so it's only fair that you've done what you have done, not the butthole. The next story is by Kush G 1407. Am I the butthole for telling this girl to wait and not interrupt me mid-set to ask, how many sets have I got left? So, another Monday at the gym. I'm starting my workout with some seated leg curls. I noticed this girl on the other side using two machines, the lying leg curl and another glutes machine I don't know the name of. Well, I'm on the last set. I don't even take that long cause I keep my breaks maybe to 1-2 minutes for this exercise, and I am never on my phone at the gym. So anyway, I'm on my last set going all out, feeling the burn in my hamstrings. You know, the kind where you're almost grunting and just squeezing a few more reps. Where all of a sudden this girl comes and stands right in front of me with her hand literally on the machine and starts waving at me. At first, I ignore thinking she'd get the hint to wait, but she doesn't. Keeps waving and trying to catch my eye. So finally, I stop. I already know she's gonna ask how many sets I have left. She does. I take my AirPods out and say, could you please wait until I finish my set? This is my last set anyway. To which she replied, it's not a big deal, and walks away with a face. Now, I don't know if I was rude. I have never seen her in the gym before, and I know almost all of the folks that come around that time. So she was definitely there, at least at that hour, for the first time. I kind of feel bad. What if it was someone new to the gym and I ruined it for them? But also, her reaction of making the face and saying, it's not a big deal, made me not feel as bad for her. Yeah, exactly, because it is not a big deal. You could have just said, this is my last set, and that's it. You're in a communal space, and she's entitled to know whether she will be able to use the machine soon or not soon. You're behaving like it's your private gym and you know all the people and they are your guests and you're entitled to do whatever you wanna. Butthole. 100% a butthole. The next story is by OddProfessional340. Am I the butthole for telling my brother that he's never allowed to be around my new girlfriend? Me and my older brother both work at the same factory, and about 5 months ago, me and him became friends with a woman who works at the factory with us. We will call her Stacy. Soon after we became friends with Stacy, she lost her apartment, and since me and my brother both live in the same house, we told her that she could live with us. I have never had feelings for this woman, but her and my brother had decided to go out a few times. They were never exclusive, but I think they were well on their way to being exclusive. They were just taking things slow. While him and Stacy were going out, but not exclusive, me and him became friends with Katie. I expressed feelings for Katie, and my brother very well knew that. Soon after we became friends with Katie, he asked her out knowing full well that I liked her. And soon after they became exclusive. And he completely left behind Stacy. He screwed over Stacy very bad because he told her that he could possibly see a future with her. But when he met Katie, he left her behind and never talked to her again. This is not the first time he has made a move on a woman that he knew I had feelings for. He has done this 2 times in the past, and every time he does it, they start dating. I thought it was just a 2-time thing, but now with the most recent event happening, I'm starting to think that he does it on purpose. Just recently, we were talking and I mentioned that I had gotten a new girlfriend. He got excited and was eager to meet her. I informed him that he would not be meeting her, nor would I bring him around her. He got confused and asked why. I reminded him that he has dated 3 women in the past that I had feelings for and that I know that he does it on purpose. He then started crying and telling me that it hurts him that I would say that about him. I simply got up and walked away. The thing that convinced me that he does it on purpose is the fact that he was very close to being exclusive with Stacy, but he broke her heart and left for the woman that I developed feelings for. The reason I will never bring him around my new girlfriend is not because I am insecure that she will leave me for him, but I fear that he will make a move on her and that it's not only disrespectful, but I know it will make her uncomfortable. Me and him have always had a rivalry, and he has always tried to prove that he is better than me. And I'm trying to put a stop to it because we're both adults and he needs to start acting like it. Exactly, he does. Because I don't want to kink shaming but it just seems very unhealthy, and I think that if you want to keep the relationship with your brother, which I wouldn't do personally, maybe you have to go to family therapy or something. But you are not the butthole here. The next story is by Lord Outrageous 2418. Am I the butthole for calling out my stepdad's parents for how they talk about me and telling them they should be more honest around my mom and their son? Sorry if the title doesn't make sense, I'll do my best to clear it up. I am 17 and I have a blended family. My mom brought me and my 2 half-siblings, 10 and 8, into her marriage with Mark 2 years ago. Mark also had 2 kids when they met. My younger siblings and my step-siblings call Mark and my mom and dad. The step-siblings' mom is only sort of present in their lives. She lives in another state and doesn't really keep in touch with them often. They can sometimes go over a year without seeing or hearing from her, and they don't remember her being more present, so to them, my mom is their mom. My siblings feel the same way about Mark because they don't remember their dad. I was 12 when my mom and Mark met, 13 when I met Mark, and 15 when they got married. Because of my age and being used to not having a dad, I never saw Mark as my dad. I don't call him dad, I don't introduce him as my dad either. Mark doesn't care. We have a good, solid relationship, but it's different to the one he has with my younger siblings and step-siblings. My mom also doesn't care, and she was really instrumental in everything being open and clear to both Mark and me when they were dating and figuring out how to blend things. Mark's parents do not like me. They hide it incredibly well, like they have never said anything or shown this directly when my mom, Mark, or I are around. I was helping Mark with some errands recently, and I met someone from his parents' church who scolded me out of nowhere. It really took me by surprise because I had seen this person twice, maybe, and didn't even know their name. Mark doesn't either. But she recognized me and she told me it was disgusting how I treat Mark I was so shocked. She told me it wasn't surprising. Mark's parents, didn't like being around me and found my attitude repulsive. She walked away before I could ask any questions. A couple of weeks after that, I saw Mark's parents out running their own errands and heard them talk to someone else about how awful I am. They accused me of disrespecting Mark. They said I was a teenage terror who was out to make everyone's lives hell. They made some wild accusations. Then that weekend, they were over at our house acting totally normal. Mark's mom gave my brother her phone and he saw a contact saved under a smiling face with horns. I called the phone and sure enough, it was me. This is when I spoke up and I called out Mark's parents for how they talk about me, and I told them they should be more honest around us about what they think of me really. Mark asked me what was going on and I told him about their church friend and what I heard them say about me. Mark was furious with his parents, but they were furious that I didn't stay quiet because they're allowed to find it disgusting and rude that I won't accept their son fully. Mark and my mom kicked them out, but Mark's parents said I was stirring. Am I the butthole? No, not at all. You're a teenager who has a very good family. You're just a very lucky person, not a butthole. Today, I effed up by freaking out my girlfriend's co-workers by taking her out to lunch. Last Friday, I had the day off work and decided to surprise my girlfriend at her job by stopping in to take her out to lunch, as her shift was about done. She works at a very large and popular wholesale store that has hot dogs. She told me beforehand that I could come see her at work anytime and there would be no trouble. I walked in front door and walked past the card checker girl. She did a double take and asked if I work here. I replied, no, I don't. I am here to see an employee, however, I'm looking for Katie in marketing. She sheepishly got her radio and said, management to front entrance, non-emergency. A manager with the largest tablet I have ever seen strapped to her arm walked up and I explained again why I was there. She called for my girlfriend on the radio, but she was not near her radio. I apparently kicked the hornet's nest and I could hear chatter on other employees' radios. Who's that guy here to see Katie? Are we being audited? He looks important. Guys, look busy. I got glances from just about every worker nearby and I could feel them trying to figure me out. It was at this time my girlfriend got back to her radio and heard the commotion and stepped out of her office and made eye contact with me. She wrapped up her work and we went out to lunch finally. I asked her why there was such a ruckus. She said that I dress nicely and I am very polite, which are characteristics of a corporate rep who comes to fire. That's when she also admitted to me that sometimes I have butthole resting face. I guess I need to smile more. I guess you do. I love this story. But in the end, only customers won because they had extra hardworking people that day. The next story is by Without Dennis Nerdy. Today, I effed up by confirming for the flight attendant that I am a reverend. This happened about this time last year. I was across the country attending the funeral of my cousin who had passed from COVID and had used my vacation savings to purchase first-class plane tickets for my journey. It was not the fun vacation I had saved for, but I was glad that I stashed enough to shell out for the good seats, as I was in absolutely crap mood and just wanted a little bit of comfort for myself in such an emotional time. I'm on the 4.5-hour section of my trip home and we are just getting up to cruising altitude when I notice a bit of commotion at the back of the plane. I'm not in the mood for drama, so I ignore it and put my headphones on to listen to some true crime podcasts. I am started to doze off to unaliving and mayhem when I get a tap on my shoulder. Looking up, I see a flight attendant motioning for me to remove my headphones with "please" hands. I slide them off one ear and she says, "I'm sorry, miss, but are you flying under the honorific of Reverend. Are you a minister of some sort? A little background time. Way back in 2000, my sister was getting married in a secular ceremony and asked me to officiate. So I got my official ordination credentials through Universal Life Church for that purpose. Since then, I have actually married 6 couples over the years, so it's been a super handy thing to have. Annoyed that the only non-binary honorifics available when purchasing a plane ticket through most US airlines are Doctor and Reverend, I always choose the Reverend option when I fly. Why we even still require such titles for air travel when you already, understandably, have to state your gender to purchase a ticket is beyond me. That's for another day. Back to the flight. I'm confused by what the flight attendant is asking. I'm thinking maybe she has a religious question, and even though I'm an atheist, I do have an advanced degree in religious studies and one in philosophy and can and will happily talk theology most days. Or maybe she has a question about getting credentials like I did. Curious, I answer to the affirmative. She follows up by asking, "Can you please follow me?" and motions to do so. Oh crap, I think. What if someone is dying and they want last rites or something? I'm clearly not a priest. I don't know what I was thinking. Now I'm really confused, and since my headphones are off, I can hear a stifled wailing from somewhere behind me. I get up and follow as she and I walk to the back of the plane. At the very last row, there is a woman in clear distress with a few other passengers and another decidedly annoyed-looking flight attendant around her. The flight attendant I'm following turns to me and says, "This woman says she's in spiritual crisis and asks us to find out if anyone on the plane is a minister or a deacon or something similar. We looked at the manifest and saw Rav in front of your name and wondered if you could please help calm her down." As she's saying this, the lady, I'd say around 65 or so, looks at me with puffy eyes and a red face, and she just looks so sad. I'm kind of on the spot here. If I say no, I really feel like this woman is going to continue to carry on making everyone's flight miserable. But at the same time, she's not my responsibility. I'm not the kind of practicing reverend I'm sure she's looking for. I'm a freaking atheist. I feel like I'd be misleading her to step in. There is something very disingenuous about thinking my college degree would come close to the work a real religious leader does for people. I don't want to get involved in the level of potential crazy that is a public crisis on an airplane, of all places. I really just want to be left alone and not to drag into an in-flight telenovela. I look at the flight attendant and tell her, "I'm sorry, I'm a reverend in name only, and I don't think I'm what they need." She looks pretty dejected and says she understands, but really, the woman just needs someone to talk to, as she's coming back from her son's funeral. She says I'm free to go back to my seat, of course, and she'll let the lady know I can't help her. Y'all, my heart broke for the woman. Maybe it was because I was dealing with my own grief, or because the lady just looked so broken, but I really felt for her. I leaned over the seat in front of her and told her I was not a real practicing reverend, but if she just needed someone to listen to her, I'm all ears. I spent the rest of my flight in her husband's seat, and he got to sit in mine in the first class. He looked like he maybe needed it more than I did, to be honest. Her name was Lydia, and she talked my ear off about her son for 4 more hours. We laughed, we cried. I really wanted to just sit in peace in my own seat and ignore the world, but I'm glad I could be there for Lydia. She was just overwhelmed, and it all came spilling out when she least expected it. I totally get it. Anyway, had the flight attendant told me what was going on before taking me down the plane to Misery Wheel, I would have immediately let her know I couldn't help. I wonder if it had been someone with doctor in front of their name and the medical emergency was happening, if the flight attendant would have sprung someone in cardiac arrest on a physicist or a classical history professor. Sound like a Monty Python sketch, lol. Oh, it's such a sad but heartwarming story, because I'm so glad that there are fake reverends who can really help people. The next story is by Dorgay Kid. Today I effed up by getting banned from McDonald's. For the past few months, I'd been taking advantage of a promotional deal through the McDonald's app, where one can snag their breakfast sandwich for a mere $1.50, a significant markdown from its usual price of $4.89. A steal, right? These deals, as many of you might know, are often used as loss leaders by companies to draw customers in, with the hope that they'll purchase additional items at regular prices. However, my transactions with McDonald's were purely transactional. I was there for the deal and nothing else. My order history was a monotonous stream of $1.50 breakfast sandwiches and nothing more. To me, it was a way of maximizing value from a company that surely wouldn't miss a few dollars here and there, especially given their billion-dollar revenue. But it seems my frugal tactics caught the eye of the McDonald's account review team. This morning, as I attempted to log in and claim my daily dose of discounted breakfast, I was met with a message that struck me as both absurd and slightly flattering. My account had been banned for overdoing their promotional deals. At first I thought it was a mistake. How could taking advantage of a deal they offered could be considered overdoing? It's not as if I'd hacked the system or used illicit means to claim the offer. It was there, in the app, available for everyone to use, yet here I am, cast out of the Golden Arches digital embrace, all because I relished their deal a bit too enthusiastically. What puzzles me is the precedent this sets. Where do we draw the line between making the most of a promotional offer and overdoing it? If a company offers a deal, should there not be an expectation that customers will in fact use it? And if that usage is deemed too frequent, does that not reflect a flaw in the promotional strategy rather than customer misconduct? I think it does, because the easiest thing to do would be just to set a limit of how many times you can use that offer, and that's it. Well, anyway, stepdad cheats on my mom, so we get revenge. This may be a long one. Apologies in advance. I moved in with my mom after her marriage of 25 years with my bio dad was ended. He was a manipulative a-hole, but that's another story. Shortly after the divorce, my mom introduced me to her boyfriend at the time, Chris. Now, my mom worked as a correctional officer at the county jail. The boyfriend was a former inmate in for a DUI. That should have been the first red flag, but my mom was grieving a lone marriage, and I didn't want to push the subject. Chris seemed to make her happy, and that was enough for me. Me, my brother and sister all moved in with my mom and Chris, and we seemed to get along okay. Chris and I bonded a bit over our love of video games and all seemed well. That is until 2017. Due to Chris's prior DUI, he had to go in regularly for probationary checkups at the courthouse. One day, he didn't return, and we got a little worried. We then received a phone call from him from Texas. Turns out, when he arrived at the country house that day, he was jumped by the FBI. His family from Texas was implicated on a number of different crimes, and due to a situation where he was in a vehicle during a substance handoff, he was on the hook as well. He ended up agreeing to testify against his family members in exchange for a short sentence and allowed to be out of incarceration before trial. My mom was distraught, and over the course of many phone calls over a year, they worked out their marriage plans when he returned. His store owner at the Dairy Queen he worked at allowed him to come back as well, back to his store manager position. Soon after, the drinking started. Now, obviously, because of his DUI, Chris was clearly no stranger to drinking. He began to drink more and more to the point where he was consuming half a 24-pack of beer a day. Chris was a mean drunk. He regularly started fights when wasted, and while they never got physical, he wasn't exactly kind with his words. My mom enabled his behavior for several years, saying the stress was getting to him from work and from the upcoming trial. Finally, after several years, my mom had enough. Chris came home extremely drunk one night, and my mom confronted him. She asked if he'd been drinking, and when he didn't deny it, she kicked him out. He went to live with a friend temporarily. The next morning, Mom asked us to help gather a few of his essentials so that he didn't have to re-enter the home until he was sober. While we were gathering his things, we heard a knock on the front door. We opened it to find Betty, one of Chris's co-workers and someone I went to high school with. She told my mom she had something important to share. After sitting my mom down and telling her not to share where she got the info from, Betty told my mom about how Chris was cheating on my mom with another co-worker, Darla, how he regularly had Darla perform adult stuff in and around his workplace, how Betty had caught them, and how Chris told her that if she ever told my mom, he'd fire her. He was the store manager. And finally, how Darla was pregnant. My mom was angry. After the initial shock wore off, she told us to round up all of Chris's things and to dump them outside. We took everything of his out of the house and tossed it all in the alley behind the house. Chris had no reason or ability to return to the house. It was rented with only my mom on the paperwork, so no issues there. In the meantime, she called and confronted him. He confessed to the entire affair and that he was happy Darla was pregnant because that meant he'd finally have a child of his own. Because my mom refused to have more kids, we three were a massive strain on her body. She likely wouldn't survive anymore. He refused to apologize for any of his actions. My mom arranged for him to collect his items from the alley with an officer present, and he left our lives. The revenge. Now, my mom clearly wanted to dust her hands off him and move on. She was already quite emotional from the whole ordeal and wanted nothing more from him. But my sister, brother, and I had other ideas. First, we called his workplace. Dairy Queen operates as an independently owned franchise, and the owner of this branch owned several branches in the area. He was also a good friend. We informed him of the adult stuff that was happening on the premises, and he went to the processes of getting Chris booted from his position and barred him from any of the branches in the area. Finally, Betty got his position after he left and now runs a tight and clean ship. Chris no longer had a job or a place to live and so went to live with Darla in a town about an hour away. We found out that he started working at another Dairy Queen in that town and informed the owner of that location of the situation. It took significantly longer due to there being no current indecent actions occurring there, but eventually he lost that job too. Soon after, Chris began driving around our neighborhood, seemingly stalking my mom and our family, probably because of his job loss. Now, due to the whole situation in Texas, he never had his probation lifted for his DUI, and thus still did not have a license. He never had to drive when he lived with us, since work was local and we could drive him as needed. But here he was, clearly driving around by himself when he shouldn't be. We contacted the police and informed them about Darla's vehicle in our neighborhood and that we believed Chris was driving it without a license. We told them to pull over the vehicle next time they see it, as it would likely be Chris driving again. Sure enough, a few weeks later, we were told that Chris indeed was pulled over and sent back to the local jail for driving without a license and while intoxicated. The police also did a search of the home he was staying at and found several pew-pews at the premises. Since he was a felon, he was not legally allowed to have weaponry on the premises, meaning there was more jail time tacked on. By the time his jail time had finished, it was just in time for him to be sent back to incarceration in Texas for the trial. Chris's son was born while Chris was in prison. Darla evidently realized what an absolute A Chris was and cut ties with him while he was in prison. During prison time, Chris started sending tons of letters to my mom, stating how sorry he was, pleading to take him back, and ranting about how it wasn't his fault. All in the same letter, mind you. Mom burned every one of them. We moved on, moving out of state. Chris evidently got out of prison some years ago and now lives in Kansas, struggling and fighting child support, which Darla sued him for. Mom now has a new boyfriend who treats her right and cares a lot more than Chris ever did. My brother and sister moved on and out, and I still live with my mom, assisting her with the newly purchased home that we've been renovating. Life's looking okay. I was reminded of this by a chat with a co-worker about cheaters and thought to post it here for others to enjoy. I enjoyed it very well, thank you. And this is a very inspiring story about how children have a good mom who treated them well, so they treat her. Operation Let It Go. My dad has shared a story about my late Uncle Dale, his lifelong friend and fellow engineer. So in his memory, I present for you the tale of nepotism, engineering students, and Idana Menzel. I really do hope I pronounce her name right, because I know the song, but I don't know the singer. Uncle Dale was a senior engineer at a small firm in the Midwestern USA and engineering instructor at the local community college. He was also unofficially in charge of the office parties. To help offset the costs, he had a small tin box on a table outside of his office with a slot in it so anyone could donate money to the party fund. Everyone knew about it and were happy to donate. A month or so before the company's big Christmas party, Uncle Dale decided to check the box. Lo and behold, it was empty. Uncle Dale knew something was wrong because he had seen several colleagues putting money in the box. This could only mean one thing: someone was stealing from the party fund. At this moment, Brad, the owner's nephew and a fellow engineer, came around the corner, and something about the way Brad was looking at him made Uncle Dale suspicious. Brad didn't have a good reputation around the office, to say the least. He had a reputation of being pushy, obnoxious, rude, and just plain entitled. Unfortunately, he was not the owner's beloved nephew, but he knew how to skirt the rules so he wouldn't get fired. Uncle Dale decided to set a trap to catch the thief. Using his engineering skills, he set up a hidden rig using a hidden doorbell camera right by the box. He then had a colleague loudly brag about how he contributed $100 to the party fund. Then he waited. He got a notification that the camera was recording and watched. Brad opened the empty box, scowl in disgust, and throw the box against the wall. Now you'd think this would end with Uncle Dale presenting the video evidence to his boss to get Brad fired, but oh no. As I mentioned before, if there is one thing engineers love, it's solving problems. And if it's engineering students, they'll make it an experience to remember. Uncle Dale then went to his engineering students. He offered them extra credit to come up with a rigged box that would make noise when opened. The more obnoxious the sound, the higher the bonus. 1 week later, they delivered their project and demonstrated how it worked. Pleased with the results, Uncle Dale awarded them with extra credit as promised. The next day, he set up the rigged box and proclaimed, "Well, isn't this nice? Someone donated $50 to the party fund." Then he went to his office and waited. The engineering students had rigged the box with one of those inserts from cars that play music when you open them. By popular vote, they had picked "Let It Go" from the Disney movie Frozen, right around the time the song was beginning to become unpopular. They also managed to ensure that once opened, the box couldn't close unless you pressed a hidden side button, releasing the hinge, so the song would continue to play. For extra funsies, they made sure to angle the insert for maximum volume and secure it down with industrial strength glue. Sure enough, everyone in the office heard Idina Mendes belting the hated song and Brett's frustrated grunts while trying to close the box. One of those attracted by the sound was Brett's uncle. Finally, Brett chucked the box at the wall, managing to put a good-sized dent in it. The uncle then summoned Brett to his office. 15 minutes later, Brett left with a cardboard box and cleaned out his desk, along with a note in his file: "Do not rehire, do not recommend." So his engineering career was over. That Christmas, Uncle Dale had a little video prepared to show at the party. The doorbell camera had caught Brett's attempt to steal from the box, all to the tune of "Let It Go." Oh my god, I love this story so much. I mean, I would pay good money to just watch this video, just to be there. It's such a good revenge. I love it. Stigma with hidden charges, I'll show you. So, this past Christmas, my missus and I purchased one of our 9-year-old son's Santa gifts from a certain UK sports retail company that also have many stores here in Ireland as well. It was a football rebounder. It's kind of like a trampoline that you kick the ball at and it bounces back to you. Anyway, we purchased it from their Irish website and thought nothing more of it. A few days go by and we get a notification from a certain brown uniformed courier company that there are customs charges due on something, and as you can imagine, we bought many things for the kids, so we had to double check what we've ordered, and we didn't have anything left that was being imported, so we naturally assumed it was a scam. So I told the wife to call the company and find out who shipped it, and it was a different courier company based in the UK. After a bit of digging and investigating, it turns out that it's our rebounder. They had shipped it from the UK via a local carrier, so the brown uniformed guys to deliver to us. Now, my wife and I are both on disability, so an additional charge of almost €50 when you're both already on a fixed income is harsh, especially at Christmas. So I told her to pay it and I deal with the retailer. The first day I called, I had to call 3 times, being stuck on hold for at least 20 minutes each time, but I was patient and polite because I worked in a call center before, so I knew those people are only doing their job. But I asked to speak to a manager and was promised a call back each time, but that never happened. The second day was quite similar. The third day I was started to get annoyed, so called back, waiting even longer on hold, and finally wasn't taking any of this crap any longer. I told the rep that all I wanted was the €50 back because our consumer rights in Ireland dictate that a person must be informed of any additional charges on a purchase at the very latest by the final checkout screen, And in this case, there was nothing to show that. And I could easily replicate that issue by putting the same item in my basket and going all the way to checkout screen again, and there was nothing saying we'd have to pay import charges. The rep was indifferent to the situation but tried to help. And what he said sent me over the edge. He offered me a measly 20 euros gift voucher to use on their website, but more importantly, he read a statement to me. He said, "We advise our customers that there may be DDU charges," means delivery duty unpaid, for example, customs charges, "on any item that gets shipped outside from the UK." Then I asked him where it states this information, and he paused, then said that he didn't actually know. I said, "Well, I know one thing. It doesn't say it anywhere on this transaction because I've checked it. And because this is a violation of my consumer rights, I'm going to give your company one last chance to make it right. Have your manager call me within the next 60 minutes, or I'm going to post this entire debacle on LinkedIn and link every senior officer in your company." Then I hung up the phone and waited. Yet again, no call. The next day, I went on LinkedIn and followed through on my promise. I created a post detailing what they had done by stinging us with hidden charges and that they were ignoring our requests for a manager and everything they said and did. Then I tagged every senior officer at that company, from the regional managers through the European directors all the way up to the CEO, and I shamed them to how they operate their company. This, ladies and gentlemen, was now an act of war. Shortly after I posted that, I noticed that they took down the item from their website in an attempt to hide this, but they must have thought that I'm a simpleton that doesn't understand how the internet works. They did not realize that when you search for Rebounder on their website, that it shows the item in question, so I took a screenshot of that, then another of the item page that was now missing, but then I did a Google cached search for the same page and found a version from 2 days prior, happily showing the item. Then I added a comment to my original post highlighting how they were trying to hide it with the evidence and trolling them for their heinous behavior, especially at Christmas. Then I tagged and shamed all the senior officers again, and at this point it was really starting to get some attention. Not only publicly, but 3 people in incognito mode viewed my profile. I wonder who they could have been. So naturally, I took a screenshot of the 3 mysterious visitors listed on my profile and did the same thing. Commented on my post highlighting it and trolling them for their incompetence. The next morning, I got a call from a senior executive at their head office in the UK, practically licking my boots with apologies, asking that she can do to make this right. I told her that originally I only wanted my 50 euros back as it wasn't fair, not even legal, that I had to pay it, but since I had to go through such lengths to get their attention, now I wanted my 50 euros back, a full refund on my entire purchase, and I wanted to keep the product. That was the only thing that would make this go away. She asked for a couple of hours to fix it and said, okay. About an hour later, I got another call from her, again apologizing. She asked for my PayPal address where she sent me 50 euros. Then she refunded the whole purchase and she let us keep the product. Obviously, I thanked her for her help because at that stage, I was just happy it was over. But I'll be damned if I let anyone walk all over my family, even if they are a £58 million annual company. The most of the story here is, do not take bullcrap from anyone. I may be just one man, but my son's view of Santa is far more valuable to me than the opinion of some retail chain that doesn't care about its customers nor how it operates ethically. Wow. I mean, I admire you, dude, because spending so much money and effort for this. Bravo! I am thinking of breaking off my engagement with my fiancé after one day. Me and my boyfriend/fiancé have been together for almost 4 years. We met in college, graduated together, and have lived in 3 cities together with our 2 shared cats. We spend most of our time together and have a pretty good relationship for the most part. We have the same values and he's a great guy. In November, he decided he was ready to propose. We talked about what I wanted in a ring and he thought I was asking for too much. I said I would rather we wait until we could feel financially confident. I didn't want the engagement to have anything to do with money. I have money insecurity due to my childhood. We make very good money now and are not struggling. I'm a farm rep and he's an engineer. I wanted the engagement to be a happy thing, not a thing we have to argue and be upset about. I make a decent bit more currently, so I suggested pitching in and he didn't like the idea. He also didn't want to wait either, so we compromised on the ring and I felt okay with the choice. Flash forward to Thanksgiving, we were looking at rings with his family jeweler and mom. The rings that he was showing were the rings I originally wanted. I was so excited and figured he was okay with it. Right after the appointment, he started talking about money and that I should have picked the cheaper option. Even though he agreed on the ring I picked in the store, he didn't say it specifically, but I think since his mom was there, he didn't want to say anything to seem more well off. My birthday is on New Year's, so for my birthday this year he got me a trip to a popular weekend getaway spot in April, which is kind of weird now to get me a trip 4 months in advance when I think about it, but regardless. But I knew it was where he was planning on proposing. In January, his best friend proposed to his girlfriend. It was a very last-minute proposal and we decided to help him propose. We met at the spot and took pictures on our phones, gave her flowers, etc. It was very cute and very them. During that, I felt very uncomfortable being there. I feel a proposal is a very intimate and they were his friends. On the car ride home, we spoke about our proposal and I said, please don't have them come. I wanted it to be just us. We had spoke about wanting a photographer before, so I figured he would do that. I really gave him complete free rein. Besides that, I did not expecting something huge. The weeks to come were rough for us, we were fighting, and I couldn't stop snapping at him and he couldn't lay off of me. I was having severe doubts about our relationship. I asked him that, he pushed back our engagement because all I wanted was to be happy during this time. I struggle with pretty severe depression and I just wanted a happy engagement. Coming up to the trip, I knew it was coming anyways. He had lunch with my dad and it was extremely obvious. I had a ton of anxiety about it. My intuition that he didn't listen to me was so loud and I was crying in my car on the way to work the day before because I just knew. I told him I was too anxious to go and wanted to stay home. I was talking about not having the right clothes, weather being bad, etc. to try and give him the hint because he definitely knew I knew. He insisted that we had to go, that the room was unrefundable, and we would figure something out. So the proposal was everything I asked for it not to be. Not only were his friends there, but he literally copied and pasted his friend's proposal, even down to what he said, which was, I had a whole thing written out, but I'm so nervous, but I love you, marry me. I said yes, and his friends were there. He immediately went over to his friend. I tried so hard to ignore it, but my face said it all in the pictures his friends took. and his girlfriend knew I was upset. The first thing he said to me was sorry after he saw my face. He said he didn't want to spend the money on photographer and ran out of time. I learned later my mom had offered a photographer for us as she's in the industry, but he said he had it covered. He knew he messed up. I wasn't mad I didn't have a spectacular proposal. I was mad because I got specifically what I didn't ask for. I got a copy and paste proposal. I got money involved when I said I could wait and to push it back. I gave him a way out to change things beforehand, but he pushed it forward. He did not put any thought into it at all. He said, I had a whole thing I wanted to say, but I'm anxious, but didn't in reality because I asked. And that being word for word what his friend said 2 months prior. What hurt the most is I asked him how did he think I was going to react, and he said he didn't think about it. I do not understand. I would hope that the person that was asked for me to love them and them love me the rest of our lives would have thought about how I would have reacted. I seriously don't understand why he didn't just wait. Looking back at everything, the whole thing was incredibly selfish. I do everything for him and I'm extremely hurt. The whole day was ruined. We both were extremely upset, and I'm currently at work crying typing this on my mobile 2 days later. This is supposed to only happen once in our lives, and he did not even consider for a second my feelings. My intuition is flaming at me to leave. On the other hand, he feels bad. He has cried about what he did and said he wishes he could go back and do it again. He said he wants to go to couples therapy and fix this and will make it up to me. I think this whole situation gave me the clarity I needed to leave, like the last straw. This is the most dramatic thing ever in my life, and I am not a dramatic person. But I don't know if I should stay and work on this or just bite the bullet. Pictures are posted and everything, so this is going to be a nightmare if I decide to end it. He wanted pictures posted. I just know my heart is actually broken and I don't know how to handle it. I wanted to post here and get insights because obviously there are not a ton of people I can talk to about this. I talked with my best friend and she's furious at him. I know he hasn't spoken to anyone about it. My therapy appointment isn't until tomorrow, but I'm considering getting a hotel for a week and letting myself cool down. But I don't know if I should. Any opinions or insights are appreciated, but hopefully you guys aren't too mean to me. I think OP is making this proposal too much about herself. And I think that maybe this one is a bit an overreaction. Maybe a couples therapy the fiancé offered is a very good idea. But what do you guys think? The next story is by Dangerous Eye 3714. I moved for work. What do? Background. My wife is an immigrant. Back in 2021, her whole family starts immigrating and moving in with us. Parents-in-law, sisters-in-law, uncles. After a few months of this, I start to feel suffocated. Things would happen like someone would take my shampoo and I would ask for it back, and my mother-in-law would yell at me for stealing my own shampoo back. Unfortunately, my salary isn't enough for us to get a house of our own. My wife did not work at the time, she was studying. I get offered a job in 2021, out of state, 50% salary increase, good work-life balance. She's reluctant and asks me multiple times if I had to choose between the job and her, what I would choose. I didn't know what to say and I feel like an absolute silly kitty for that. I was just so miserable living in that environment, and this job was such a good opportunity. Think a company like Google. But eventually I didn't have to choose because she decided she would move with me. I found her a similar program to continue her studies while living with me. I also rented an apartment in the city so she could go to clubs, which she likes. Anyway, she stays for 2 months and then in September of 2021 leaves to go to a concert with her family and never comes back, abandoning her studies. She wanted a house in her hometown, so I bought her a house. I also pay the mortgage on the first house where her parents are living. I visit her about once a month, but will probably up the frequency because I feel guilty. She visits me about twice a year. She got a stable job in November of 2022 after occasional contracts every few months prior to that. I probably won't leave my job yet because I do get a pension after 5 years and we are also planning to buy a house in this new state. Something I wouldn't be able to do with lesser salary back in hometown. She occasionally talks about moving back with me, but I don't know what she wants to do. If she doesn't move back with me after 5 years, I will move back with her. Admittedly, I am afraid of being suffocated again, but I don't want to be egotistical. So here are my questions. How much of a horrible person am I for having acted this way in the first place? Besides looking for a job in hometown and visiting her weekly or every other week, what else can I do? I call her multiple times a day and dedicate about an hour a day to do things to help her and her family. Is it a good idea to take the leap and leave this job to go back somewhere that suffocated me? You are not a horrible person at all. You sound like a fantastic partner, very supportive, and I think you have to communicate with your wife more. Maybe try couples therapy? What do you guys think? Would you call OP a horrible person? The next story is by Throwaway5512. My girlfriend barely talks or engages in group settings and it is ruining our relationship. I'll try to make this short because I'm just looking for a simple advice. Just as the title says, my girlfriend of 4 years hardly speaks up or engages in group settings. She has a very high levels of social anxiety due to a super conservative Christian upbringing. She's no longer Christian, but there's a lot she's still unpacking. And that is a factor for sure, but after 4 years, not much has changed, despite her making solid attempts at improving her social skills. I should also mention that she doesn't really have any friends beside one who lives many states away. The reason this is ruining our relationship is because I really dread going out and seeing friends and family with her. All the social pressure falls squarely on me. I feel embarrassed for myself in the way that we do not complement each other in social situations. I tend to be more energetic and talkative. I try to overcompensate for her lack of social engagement by complimenting her, trying to pump her up, trying to prompt her to elaborate on things. But even after all this time and several conversations we've had specifically about this issue, the change has been so incremental that it's hard to notice. I'm somebody who, while also socially anxious, is definitely spontaneous and a people person. It sucks to dread going to do things that I would normally enjoy to do on my own. I feel like a lot of time in group settings, I can connect more interpersonally with complete strangers than I can with my own girlfriend. Even my parents tell me that it seems like she's not even with us when having family dinners. That really stung to me. I think a lot of this stayed kind of under the radar during a relationship because we mostly dated during COVID, where we weren't seeing a ton of people and we were in our own little world. My girlfriend has a real personality, sense of humor, and passion for things, but the only one who gets to see that is me, and behind closed doors. I really wish that we complemented each other more in front of people, and despite many attempts to improve and change, I'm starting to have doubts that I'll ever see the progress that I'm hoping for. Since we are 4 years in and the idea of marriage has been on the table, I am starting to feel the burn that this will be the rest of my life if we don't make a major change or break up. I obviously don't want to hurt her or lose the person who's been closest to me for nearly half a decade. But I also know that I don't think I can live with somebody who can't support me or compliment me when we're outside of the house. I know this has to do a lot with her childhood upbringing, and as much as I'm trying to be empathetic, I feel as if I'm at a breaking point. Any advice would be very helpful. Thanks for taking the time. I think that you are being not empathetic, but egoistic. Because if your girlfriend is clearly having a social anxiety, you cannot force her be more social. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. What do you guys think? Thank you for listening. Please like the video, subscribe for more. You can also watch this awesome video or that awesome playlist. See you next time.